In this short video, I'm going to show you how to use Google Slides to create a virtual word wall. And the example that I'm using here is one for a U.S. history unit on the American Revolution. Typically, a word wall is something that's used on your classroom wall, and it can be something cumulative where you add to it as you learn new vocabulary. But we are going to create one actually in a Google slideshow that could also be cumulative. And this is something that you could have up on your smartboard. If you were starting a unit to preview vocabulary, you could add to it as you got to certain vocabulary words as you covered them in the text. You could use Google Classroom to distribute it to students and have them create their own word walls with the vocabulary terms from the unit. So the possibilities, again, with this are endless. So I'm just going to walk you through the very basic way to create this. And I basically started with just the first slide, changing the background color. And I can do that just by, let's see, going back and clicking here and going to background. I can choose whatever background color I want to choose for the slide. And once I choose that, I can add that to the whole slideshow, so it will change the whole background to blue, or I can just change it on one slide. So I'm going to click Done. And what I've done is just created these little bubbles, and you can either do that by creating just a square text box and coloring it in, or going to shapes, and I just chose the circle or an oval to create. And once I've created one and decided on the shape that I want and the size that I want, I can just type in the text and change my my font if I need to and my size. And once I have one, I can just duplicate it over and over again by right-clicking and copying it and pasting it. And to make it super simple on your students, you could even, I'm going to click and drag this over here, just delete the text and have a blank template one in the corner that they can make copies of as they learn their new vocabulary terms. And there are some unique ways to use this. You could just post the words on your virtual word wall, or I show you some other possibilities. So what I've had students do in the past is actually categorize their knowledge of their vocabulary terms, because you can click and drag these shapes. So the three categories would be know it, could teach it once they've learned the vocabulary word, almost got it if they're almost there, and nope, they don't know it. So they could very easily click and drag these terms over based on their knowledge of each vocabulary word. Very simple. The other thing that students could do is they could just color code the words themselves based on their knowledge. So let's say you didn't have these here. We can delete them. And students know that that green means that they know the word, and yellow means they're almost there, and red means that they don't. They can just click on the figure, click the little paint can, and keep track themselves of their particular knowledge of a word. So let's say this week ally is red because they're not at all familiar with what ally is, but then next week they change it to yellow because they feel a little bit more comfortable with it. So those are just some color coding options. I've also done categories with parts of speech. So if you set it up where students have to drag the nouns under the noun category, the verbs under the verbs category, and the adjectives under the adjectives category, they can click and drag the figures over. To go in each category, like so. The other thing that's really easy is this can be cumulative. So once you've created the first slide, you can use it throughout the whole text. So I started with this slide and I just made a duplicate of it. So you can either just click duplicate slide, or you can go up to slide and duplicate it. And then that will create just a copy of the first slide, and then you drag it down. And then you can just make changes to it as you feel necessary. So this one's going to be chapter 9. I'm going to include my title, and I'm going to change my background color to, let's say, be purple, and as I go through my text, I can have a word wall for each chapter of the book. One more example is just breaking the word wall into categories by lesson. So if you're covering an entire unit or a chapter, this one is Chapter 7, Causes of the Revolution, I can pick out the vocabulary words that they need to know by lesson. So lesson 1 would be ally, commander, and boycott. Lesson 2 would be petition, and then I could add going from there. So there are a million ways that you could categorize it. But the word wall is can be done virtually and can be something that you present to your students, post up on a smartboard, or have them actually generate as they move through their text.